What's up, gamer? My name's Luco, and today I'm going to show you how to get through Act 1 of Path of Exile 1's campaign faster. As a quick disclaimer, this is not meant to be a super optimal guide for speedrunners to clear through the whole campaign in 2 hours flat. It's meant for beginner and intermediate players to share the tricks that I use and the paths that I take in each act to speed things up as someone who takes 5 to 7 hours on average to go from the beginning of the campaign to the end. As always, we start off passed out on the beach in the Twilight Strand. After grabbing your weapon and skill gem from the dying man and the zombie, there are only 2 other things you should do in this zone. The first is grab the support gem from the glowing box halfway down the beach, and the second is kill Hillock. Any time spent killing zombies or crabs here is basically wasted, as any experience or skill points you may get will not make any meaningful difference in the fight against Hillock. To find him, run to the right along the edge of the water until you reach the end of the zone. Once he's dead, you can head into town. While you're in town for the first time, you need to talk to an NPC named Tarkleigh for 2 reasons. The first is to turn in the quest for killing Hillock and pick whichever skill gem you want as the reward. The second is to check his shop. There's a chance that he sells gear that has a desirable combination of sockets if you already know what you need for your build, and he may also sell boots that have a movement speed modifier on them. If you're checking his shop for movement speed boots, you can simply type the letters NN into the search bar and check the pages where boots are listed. The bottom tier of the movement speed modifier is known as runners, so searching the letters NN will cause any boots with the runners modifier to be highlighted. His shop resets every time you level up, so if you don't find what you're looking for, you can check again whenever that happens. Whether you buy anything or not, you can go to the next zone as soon as you're done talking to him. From this point onward, it's more acceptable to spend some time killing monsters for experience, but in general, killing magic packs or those blue glowing monsters is most efficient. If you see a big pack of normal monsters anywhere, or if some are blocking your path, then it is worth it to blow them up quickly and move on, but you generally don't want to kill every single monster you see. Moving on, there are no quest objectives in the coast. Your only priority here is to reach the end in the far right corner or top right side of the zone, and grab the waypoint that's right next to both of the zone's exits. On one side is the Mudflats, and the other side is the Tidal Island. The Tidal Island has an important side quest that we do want to complete, but there's not much point in us completing that quest before we reach a level 4. So first, we go to the Mudflats. The Mudflats is easily one of the most toxic zones in the entire campaign. There are tons of Roas that can easily charge and stunlock you to death, so if you do die, try not to be too upset because this zone gets everybody once in a while. The goal here is to find 3 Roa nests that are marked on your minimap with yellow exclamation marks. Clicking on each one will give you a different shell, which will help you open the door to leave this terrible place. Once you have all 3, you can usually find the exit on the far right corner or the top right edge of the map. The exit looks like a little cove with a big waterfall in the back. If you click on the wall with all 3 shells in your inventory, the waterfall will disappear and reveal the entrance to a new zone called the Submerged Passage. There is one other exit somewhere else in the zone called the Fetid Pools, which does have a side quest in it, but the reward for that quest is not worth the time it takes to complete it, so we can skip that zone entirely. Once you enter the Submerged Passage, there should be a waypoint somewhere close to the door. From here, you should click on that waypoint and teleport back to the waypoint that you activated in the coast. While fighting through the Roas in the Mudflats, you likely gained 1 or 2 levels, so it's time to do the quest in the Tidal Island. This zone is a giant ring with a quest boss named Hailrake somewhere on the end of the ring that's opposite from the entrance. Either path you take to get there is going to be pretty similar in length, so you can just pick whichever one your heart desires and run to the boss. Once you kill him, he should drop a medicine chest, a portal scroll, and some gear. The medicine chest is the quest item you need, and you're meant to use the portal scroll to go back to town and turn in the quest. But there's a different trick you can use to get back to town without using the scroll. All you have to do is log out back to the character select screen, then log back in with the same character. You'll wake up in town closer to the quest NPC Nessa than you would have if you used the portal scroll. The reward for this quest is your choice from some support gems based on your class, and more importantly, your choice from one of 3 flasks. One is a life flask, one is a mana flask, and the other is a Quicksilver flask. Quicksilver flasks temporarily give a major boost to your movement speed while they're active, and they refill as you kill stuff like regular life and mana flasks. They're extremely useful for getting through the campaign quickly, and you should take the Quicksilver flask as your reward without hesitation. While you're running through the campaign, you want to try and keep that flask's buff active as often as possible. While you're still in town, you should also talk to Tarkleigh again. He was the one that wanted you to clear the Mudflats in the first place, so now he has a reward for you. That reward is also very useful because in addition to giving you your choice of a new offensive skill based on your class, you also get a new movement skill based on your class. If you're playing a strength-based class, you get shield charge. If you're playing a dexterity-based class, you get dash. And if you're playing an intelligence-based class, you get frostblink. Dash and frostblink are a little more useful than shield charge since they can be used to jump up and down ledges or over enemies, but shield charge does add quite a bit of movement speed to your character when you use it, so it can be helpful to have too. Getting used to using the movement skills at your character's disposal as often as possible is another way to significantly speed up the time it takes to finish the entire campaign. With those quests turned in, your Quicksilver Flask equipped, and your new skills socketed the way you want them, it's time to use the waypoint to go back to the Submerged Passage. It varies from layout to layout, but in this zone you generally want to run from the entrance toward the top center or bottom right. About halfway through the zone there's a chasm with a small wooden bridge going over it. Once you find that, you know you're going in the correct direction. Before going over the bridge, however, there is one thing you have to do. Attached to this zone is another zone with a side quest in it called the Flooded Depths. The door to that zone is in the first half of this one, usually somewhere close to the bridge. Whether you find the door first or the bridge first, when you find one of them, use that portal scroll you got from Hillock and open a portal, then keep running towards the zone's other exit. To minimize the amount of backtracking you have to do after completing the Flooded Depths quest, it's best to run and grab the waypoint from a place called the Lower Prison a few zones ahead. The only downside to this strategy is that you do need to get through the next two zones kinda quickly to make sure your portal doesn't expire in this zone. To get from the bridge to the ledge on all layouts, you'll want to go up until you find the door. The ledge is basically a long straight line with a bunch of monsters and a waypoint somewhere in the middle. There is one side path near the waypoint with a bunch of goatmen in it that can be a little challenging, but that path ultimately leads to the same place as the original one, so it doesn't really matter which way you go. Pick a path and follow it until you reach the door to the climb. There are no quest objectives in the climb, and there's no need to return to it at any point, so you don't even need to bother finding the waypoint here. You'll know you're going the right way towards the exit when you start seeing ramps and ledges that lead upwards. There's also a unique skeleton archer with black and green bones named Ironpoint the Forsaken, who's usually near one of the ramps. He's a sure sign you're going the right way. Just keep going up from there and you'll find the entrance to the lower prison. Inside the lower prison, run just inside the door until you find the waypoint, then use it to go back to town. It's very important, so I'll say it again. Use the waypoint to go back to town, and not another portal scroll, and definitely not the trick that I taught you earlier to log out then back in. Using a portal scroll will overwrite the portal you opened in the Submerged Passage, and logging out then back in will delete that portal. So, in the lower prison, find the waypoint, then use it to go back to town. When you get there, talk to Nessa to get a support gem as a quest reward for reaching the lower prison, then run down the stairs on your left and go through your portal to the Submerged Passage. This will take you back to wherever you left the portal in that zone. If you opened it by the bridge, look around the immediate area until you find the door to the Flooded Depths. If you already opened it by the door, just go on through. The goal in the Flooded Depths is to find and kill a giant hermit crab encased in this crystal stuff called Essence. The layout for this zone varies pretty wildly, so it's hard to say exactly which way you need to go from the entrance, but one hint that you're going the right direction is if you find some pools of water with little bubbles in them. Standing next to those bubbles will cause a giant crab to jump out and attack you, and they only spawn near the boss, so once you see them, you're not far. When you find the boss, click him a couple times to wake him up, kill him, then go back to town however you want. Once you're there, turn in the quest to Tarkleigh, he'll give you a skill point, then you can use the waypoint in town to go back to the lower prison. The lower prison has one objective you need to complete before moving on, and that is your first Ascendancy Trial. If you don't know what that is, it's one of several trap gauntlets you need to go through at different points in the story to unlock and empower your chosen subclass, also known as your Ascendancy class. The one in this zone is usually located somewhere to the top right of the entrance, and you'll know you're close if you see a little book icon somewhere nearby on your minimap. That book icon means there's an interactable lore object in that location, and there are lore objects in front of every single Ascendancy Trial. When you find it, go in and look for ways to get past all the traps until you reach this plaque thing at the end. Click on it, the trial will be completed, and a portal will open up to take you back to the beginning. As for the rest of the zone, there's nothing else interesting and no real tricks to navigating. You basically need to just wander until you find the door to the upper prison. The upper prison is just like the lower prison, except instead of the Ascendancy Trial, it has a hidden room which holds something called a chemist's strongbox. If you spot the hidden room on your map, look around the walls directly next to the entrance to find the switch that opens it. When you click on the strongbox, a bunch of monsters will jump out and the box may or may not explode, but once you deal with all the monsters, a bunch of flasks will fall out. This is a nice opportunity to upgrade your life or mana flasks if you haven't found any new ones in a while, and it also has a very good chance of dropping you an extra Quicksilver flask. If 1 Quicksilver is good, 2 Quicksilver is better, so it's a good idea to open that strongbox if you find it. If you wander around the upper prison and you find the exit before you find the hidden room, there's nothing wrong with skipping it, as we can get an extra Quicksilver flask a little later in the campaign. The exit from the upper prison will take you to a place called the Warden's Quarters, where you'll have to fight Brutus, the first major story boss since Hillock. After you kill him, run through the door near where he spawned, then through the big empty room afterward, and go through the door to the prisoner's gate after that. When you enter the zone, you'll spawn right next to a waypoint. Use that waypoint to go back to town and talk to Tarkleigh for another skill gem. This skill gem reward is particularly important because it gives every class the option to take a new movement skill. Depending on your class, he may offer Flame Dash, Smoke Mine, Blink Arrow, Leap Slam, or some combination of any of those gems, as well as several other non-movement options. These particular movement skills are important because they all let you jump over walls and chasms, and they tend to be a little more useful in various ways than the first movement skills that you got for clearing the mudflats. If you look at the options and decide you want more than one of the gems that Tarkleigh is offering, pick one of the ones you want from him, then talk to Nessa and open page 2 of her shop. When you get gem rewards from quests, all of the gems that were offered at the moment you turned it in, and usually a couple more will be unlocked at the jewelry vendor in each town, so feel free to buy any extras from there. When you're done in town, use the waypoint to return to the prisoner's gate. From here, you want to leave the road as soon as possible. Following it will lead to a dead end, and the actual way forward is a side path that can randomly spawn on either side of the road. You'll just have to check each side until you find it. Once you do find the side path, follow it until you reach the door to the ship graveyard. The ship graveyard contains an important side quest with an extra zone attached called the Ship Graveyard Cave. Just like we did for the Submerged Depths, we're going to do some portal shenanigans to complete the quest while avoiding as much backtracking as possible. But first, you have to wander around the zone until you find the Ship Graveyard Cave. Again, this zone varies pretty wildly from layout to layout, so you just have to look for the door until you find it. When you do, use the portal scroll to open a portal next to the door. After that, keep running past the door until you find the entrance to the next zone called the Cavern of Wrath. When you find that, go through the door and use the waypoint just inside to go back to town. In town, talk to Nessa and she'll give you a skill gem as a quest reward for reaching the Cavern of Wrath, then run back down the stairs in town and go through your portal. This will put you directly on top of the Ship Graveyard Cave, which you should now enter. The Ship Graveyard Cave is another maze, this time with a dead person at the end holding a quest item. Walking near the corpse will cause a mini-boss to spawn, which you can kill if you want to, but you don't have to in order to complete the quest. Just click on the corpse, pick up the item it drops, deal with the boss if you feel like it, and then walk through the door in the back of the room. When you finish loading out of the zone, you'll notice that you're not back at the entrance of the cave. Instead, you're standing on a plateau near a quest NPC named Captain Fairgraves. Talk to him to trigger a bit of monologuing and an eventual boss fight. Then when that's all over with, go back to town, talk to Bestel for a skill point, then use the waypoint in town to go back to the Cavern of Wrath. The Cavern of Wrath and the zone after it, the Cavern of Anger, are the last two zones before Merveil, the final boss of Act 1. There are no side objectives in either of them, and they're both basically mazes in which you need to find your way to the doors at the end. When you get to the end of the Cavern of Anger and kill Merveil, you can proceed to Act 2. One thing to know about Merveil is that she does a lot of cold damage. As such, getting cold resistance on your gear makes her a lot easier to deal with. Most often, I try to find sapphire rings from enemies during the rest of the act or from Nessa. If you don't find a sapphire ring, you can also make one by vendoring an iron ring and any blue gem together. Nessa sells iron rings and you can just buy a cheap blue gem from page 2 of her shop as well, if you don't have any of them on hand at this point in the act. As for Merveil's mechanics, I'm not going to go over every single attack she has, since most of them are pretty simple to avoid once you've seen them a couple times, but there is one in particular that you need to be very careful about. Every so often during the fight, Merveil will summon a bunch of octopus monsters from the edges and center of the arena. Somewhere around half of those octopus monsters will be red. If the red ones get close to you for any amount of time, they'll explode and deal some damage. Individually, they don't hurt too bad, but if she summons 10 of them and they all explode next to you at the same time, it could kill your character very quickly. So while you're fighting, make it your top priority to kill or avoid the red monsters first when she summons them. Once she's dead, collect your loot and click on the door in the top left side of the arena to finish Act 1 and enter Act 2. That's the entire act, and those are the paths that I take. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or in my chat while I'm live both here and on Twitch. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more like it. If you want to see similar guides for the rest of the acts, I'll put a playlist of all of them in the description and the pinned comment down below. Lastly, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.